Hello, algebra students. This is Mrs. Thompson again. We're going to talk about section 4.4 in our lesson today. So hopefully you have your lesson notes out and ready to go over this with me. And our focus today, we are going to learn how to calculate the slope using the slope formula. We've already been introduced to the slope. We learned that slope is also called rate of change. We also know how to take a graph of a line and calculate the slope using rise over run. Now we're going to learn how to calculate slope using this formula, m, which in math and algebra means slope. M is slope. You are going to see from now on anything related to slope, you're going to see the variable m attached to that. So m equals 2. That means the slope of that line is 2. M equals 4/5. The slope of that line is 4/5, etc. and so forth. Now, this formula, let me read it to you. It says m equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 divided by x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now, I hope you're tying this in as the change in y divided by the change in x. That's what we've already actually done this. You didn't know you were doing this, but we've actually already used this formula earlier. This is one of those typical algebra formulas. You need to memorize it for the state test. So let's start memorizing it right this second for our test on chapter 4, the beginning of chapter 4. Okay, now what did the y sub 2, y sub 1, what do those little numbers mean? Well, whenever you know 2 points, let's say you're given this point and this point, okay? We know that the first number in that point is always going to be the x. The second number is always the y. Well, we want to distinguish between the 2 points. So call one of them point A, or point 1, and one of them point 2. So we could say, hey, I want to call this one point 1. And this one point 2. That's where the sub numbers come from. You are saying that x sub 1, y sub 1 is 0.1 and x sub 2, y sub 2 is 0.2. That's all those numbers mean. They just distinguish one point from another. That's it. Because to use this formula, you need 2 points in order to plug into the slope formula and calculate slope. Now let's look at example 1. It is asking us to find the slope of the line that contains, hey, look at there, these 2 points, 4, -2, 1, -2. Okay, well we want to distinguish between them. We want to pick one of them to be 0.1 and the other one to be 0.2. And guys, it doesn't matter which one you call 0.1 and which one you call 0.2. It really doesn't matter. Just pick one of them, okay? Now for this first example, I'm going to call this one 0.1 and this one 0.2. So what that means is that for 0.1, the 4 is going to be x sub 1 and the -2 is going to be y sub 1 because it's 0.1. And 0.2, that's going to be x sub 2 is 1, y sub 2 is -2. I'm a real careful sort. I hate messing up, and I don't like plugging in numbers wrong. So that's why I clearly label so I know exactly what to plug in. Okay? So let's start with the y's. Let's start with our numerator. I'm going to go to y sub 2. There it is. That's -2. Minus, now what is y sub 1? -2. Okay, so I have a -2 minus a -2. Now you can either use your calculator and figure that out, or you can just reason it and go, I have -2 and now I'm taking it away. How much do I have left? And hopefully you said 0. Okay, let's go to the x's. X sub 2 is +1 minus, what's x sub 1? 4. What's 1 minus 4? -3. So the slope of this line is 0 divided by -3, which is 0. Now, can you remember from a previous lesson what kind of lines have a zero slope. The number 0 is the slope of that line. It's a special kind of line. If you remember, write that down on your notes right now. You can go back and research it, and I'll give you extra credit on your bonus log if you can remember what kind of line has a slope equal to 0, okay? And I'll write it right here. What kind of line? Okay, what kind of line is this? It's a special kind of line, so give it your best shot. Maybe research it and write it down, or if you know right off the top of your head, go ahead and write it on your notes right now. Put it on that line that I just drew, okay? All right, let's see here. Let me flip to the next page. Let's do another one. This one's, we're still going to use the slope formula, but there's fractions there. Oh man, that's not good. Some of us really don't like fractions, and there's really not too much you can do about that in this particular case. It's not an equation, so I can't get rid of the denominator, so that's not even a strategy here. But what you can do is if the fractions are terminating decimals or terminating fractions, you can actually write them as decimals. If they don't terminate, then please do not round that number. You're going to be inaccurate, okay? But let me show you what this looks like. So I'm going to write it vertically so it looks a little bit friendlier to the eye. And this time, I'm going to call the first point, I'm going to call that point, point 2, and the second one, point 1, okay? I just want to do that to show you that it doesn't matter which one you call point 1 and which one you call point 2. So I'm going to call this x sub 2, y sub 2, and this one will be x sub 1, y sub 1, okay? All right, so let's take a look. We want to plug into our formula. So we're going to do y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now I'm saying this formula over and over again. I'm saying it out loud. I'm writing it. You do the same thing. That's how you memorize. It's going to stick in your mind. If you keep writing it and saying it, you're going to have it memorized before you know it. Okay, let's start with the y's. So I need y sub 2, which is 7/5, minus, now what's y sub 1? 2/5, okay? Got that. Now, can you figure out what 7/5 minus 2/5 equals? If you said 5/5, you're correct. And we can go one step further. 5/5 is actually what whole number? 1. Exactly. Good job. Really good job. All right, x sub 2. Let's find x sub 2. That's 3/4 minus x sub 1, which is 1/4. 3/4 minus 1/4 is 2/4, which I can reduce to 1/2. Now, you're not going to be able to leave that fraction within a fraction. Okay, we want whole numbers in the numerator and we want whole numbers in the denominator. Okay, this is something that you can do. I'll show you a couple options. Option 1 is in your calculator. You can do 1 divided by 1/2, or you could have changed it to 1 divided by 0.5. And either way, what did you end up getting? If you have your calculator handy, what did you get when you divided that in your calculator? If you got the number 2, you're exactly right. Or you could do the good old copy, change, flip. Copy, change, and flip that second fraction over and got it 2 as well. So the slope of this particular line with those points that are fractions, the slope is 2. Okay? So that's how you calculate slope using the slope formula. So remember, point 1, point 2, you pick which one you want to be point 1 and which one you want to be point 2, and then plug into your formula and solve. If you have any questions, bring them to class tomorrow.